Now, other interesting Bud Light news, you have their sales going down again. A cultural phenomenon and a brilliant example of shooting yourself in the foot multiple times, but still trying to crawl forward. Now, it looks like the sales are down 27.9% for the week ending June 24th. This according to Nielsen IQ. And the week prior to that, sales were down 28.5%. I guarantee you July 4th was not a good weekend for them. Now, we get this data a little bit delayed because you have all of the supply chain when it comes to actually selling the product. You have Anheuser-Busch, you have the distributor, you have the actual store, then you have the end user, or you have a restaurant, what have you. So the sales information is a little bit delayed. So that's why we're talking about, I know this is, after a couple days after July 4th, but the reason we're talking about the week of ending in June 24th is because of that delay. Now, also, if you look into the data, it's actually worse. Now, the units sold dropped compared to last year was 31.3%, which that's got to be hurting them pretty damn bad. And that's for Bud Light alone, that specific brand. Now, when it comes to Budweiser, it looks like for the same period a week last year, sales are down 12%, and Michelob Ultra is down 4.4%, with the biggest upside being Modelo at plus 6.4%. And again, in the United States, Modelo is a separate brand owned by Constellation Brands. So if you're trying to boycott Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch, and Bev, in the United States, if you purchase Modelo, you're more than proving your point. It's a separate entity. If you're watching this from across the pond or anywhere overseas or any other country for that matter, in that case, Modelo is owned by Anheuser-Busch and Bev. The United States and the Social Securities Exchange Committee, or the SEC, the only reason they allowed Anheuser-Busch and Bev to combine, the two companies being Anheuser-Busch and InBev being the Belgian-based company, they allowed the merger to happen or the sale to happen because they told them for the United States they'd have to divest Modelo as a brand in the United States. So, long story short, the boycott is working. So if you believe in the boycott, you're doing pretty damn good. Now, it looks like Anheuser stock is still down at $27 billion since April 1st. It is such a bizarre situation. Many think it was, at the first day, everyone thought it was a joke because it was April 1st. Now, in terms of business blunder of the year, and in terms of a strategy, it was a joke of a strategy, that's for sure. But for once, the United States, it looks like you have a cultural backlash, and you actually have a boycott that's working for people who are in the middle, and then I would say on the right ideologically, as this has become a political issue for many people involved. Will they be able to recover? If I were Magic 8 Ball, I'd say, outlook not so good. Now, other interesting cultural news, you have Taylor Swift on her track to hit the $1 billion mark for a tour. Now, this would also make a new record for the highest grossing tour of all time. Now, this $1 billion will consist of ticket sales, revenue, merchandise, and sponsorships of the tour of 106 dates. So she's going to be busy. That's almost as many dates as she's had boyfriends. Almost. Now, this is all an example and all right now current estimates by a third-party publication called Polestar. And it looks like her last tour consisted of 52 shows, and that hit $591 million. So in terms of a cultural phenomenon, even when I was in college back in the day, people worshipped Taylor Swift. She even has her own, I think, acronym, or her nickname is like T Swift. If you're too lazy to say Taylor. But also, all of her songs, I mean, just imagine if she met a nice guy in high school or college, like, she'd have no music career. Or, actually, now that I think about it, every single song is about how the guy is wrong. What could possibly be the common denominator of every relationship she's ever been with or in? The mind surely is perplexed. I mean, who knows? However, maybe in a couple decades she'll actually notice her problem, and maybe her last song will be something about mildew in the mirror, or wiping away the mold in the mirror and be like, oh dear God, oh no, it was me. But we'll see. For now, she just still remains a pinnacle of music and a cultural phenomenon, and given the size of her fan base, it will probably be more than willing to pay for more merchandise, and she may very well break a record. We'll see. Other interesting cultural news, you have a Subway store making a Titanic submarine joke about OceanGate and pretty much getting a 50-50 yay or nay from the audience. Now, this is a Subway store specifically in Georgia, and they had changed their sign outside to say, quote, "Our subs don't implode," unquote. Now, that was an attempt at a joke about the recent tragedy with the Ocean Gate sub or submersible, in which you had 5 gentlemen go down to visit the Titanic, or attempt to, and the apparatus or the sub imploded and they all died. And a lot of people, especially leftists, were celebrating the fact because they were successful people in life and they had money. And they were cheering the fact that they all died in there, including a father and a son, which shows you how morally inept and morally vacuous some of those people are, where they're cheering that on. Now, the store attempted to make a joke, and I have a certain appreciation for humor, especially dark humor. It's one of those very interesting things with timing. I always say it's half of everything in life, but in this case, we're still, I think, about 2 weeks out from that tragedy. I mean, I guess they're trying to maybe hit that sweet spot between when it's distasteful of a comment, but when it's still socially relevant. And in terms of cultural backlash, it looks like half the comments online were praising the fact that not only those men died trying to explore the areas that only a handful of people have ever seen in history, but they're also applauding the fact that, eat the rich kind of ridiculous statements. And about the other half online, thankfully, were pushing back, saying it was in poor taste, this isn't going to help their sales, and people died, what's wrong with these sick bastards? But in terms of a business, you have Subway corporate office, they weren't too happy. So they gave that franchise, again, when it comes to Subway, they're a franchise, so an overwhelming majority of the actual locations are franchises. So they're owned by individual people or a separate company, not Subway itself. You're basically renting the brand, the machines, the instructions for how to run the business and support. Now, the Subway Corporation actually reached out with a statement saying, quote, "We have been in contact with the franchise about this matter and made it clear that this is the kind of comment that has no place in our business. The sign has since been removed," unquote. Now, there's also questionable how much of a moral high ground Subway has when they had Jared Fogle as a brand ambassador. But I digress. Now going on to the political part of the podcast, you have China. They're going to cut the shipment of the materials needed for chips to the United States, which many speculating are in response that from the Biden administration that they might, and again, this wasn't a fact, they were saying they're considering blocking the sale of chips designed for AI to China specifically. So now China's saying no more precious metals for you. And if I was a better voice actor, I'd try to do that mixed with the soup Nazi from Seinfeld. Whoops, this video just got blacklisted. Oh well. That with maybe a Chinese accent. Time shall tell. Let me know in the comments if you want more jokes and humor. I prefer dry, like my martinis. Now, many are speculating that's the reason China is starting to block these materials. And China specifically, these restrictions are starting in August. And they're going to specifically focus on materials including gallium, germanium, which not from Germany, I checked. So again, gallium, germanium, that's a joke. Yeah, you got it? All right. And about a dozen other materials are used to make semiconductors, solar panels, EV batteries, and oh yeah, defense materials. Now, China makes up 60% of the world's germanium mining and creation and 80% of the gallium. This is according to a group by the name of Critical Raw Materials Alliance, which they should switch that around and make an acronym because acronyms are cool. They make you sound smart. It eluded me. I had one on the tip of my tongue. YOLO? I think that's what the youth say. Now, U.S. moron and bird impersonator, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, is actually heading out to China to have some discussions with them and seeing what she might be able to mend. Now, she's the brilliant person who was behind the countless printing of money during COVID under both presidencies, Trump and Biden. And she was the one when they asked her, like, did you know inflation would happen? She said, and she said, actually, quote, "I think I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take," unquote. I think a 2-year-old, if you just give a 2-year-old plastic play money and explain to them the economics of, okay, here you have $5. I'm just going to keep throwing these dollars out here. And now the prices of everything go up. Your $5 is now worth less and less and less. Even a child would have a better understanding of the concept of inflation than Janet Yellen. And this is, in terms of business blunders, she's perhaps the political blunder. Oh, that's a pretty high bar because politicians on all sides are not the most intelligent or moral. So that might be a separate topic we have to dive into. Maybe a political blunder of the day. I would say most political statements and actions are blunders. So there's a lot of material to work with. But yeah, her trip to China, I suspect, will have little to no effect. If we had a leader, if you had a leader or someone actually can take initiative, that might help. But the U.S. seems to have a vacuum when it comes to many of those things. But not good, especially the U.S. is pushing the adoption and forcing the adoption of EV vehicles by basically putting a gun to the head of every executive that works in the automotive community. Because again, they're saying if your fleet can't make this average, you can't make cars. So the only way you can make these outrageous, unrealistic tailpipe emission standards is by getting rid of the tailpipe, making less of them, making more EVs. It's a de facto backwards-ass ban on the vehicle technology, also known as the internal combustion engine, also known as the most durable product most people ever buy in terms of if you buy a Toyota or a Honda. And I would always argue the best ROI. I know my family still drives a 21-year-old Honda Accord. This thing's bulletproof because it's an internal combustion engine with 4 cylinders and it was engineered damn brilliantly by Honda. And it's great. Right now, and again, we talked about battery technology in the earliest episode, it's just not going to be a great thing when it comes to longevity or reliability of the vehicles. But we'll see. Technological innovation is a fascinating thing. Might have a new battery that's even better than the one Toyota said they're good about. But again, they said they'll have long range, but what about the reliability and longevity? That's what I look for in terms of many products as the ROI. We'll see. Now, going on to the business blunder of the day, you have Honda issuing recalls due to brakes. So thankfully, not the core of the car, so your engine will still last 1,000,000 miles plus, depending on what model and how you treat it. Now, specifically, this is recalling 124,000 vehicles covering 5 models produced between 2020 and 2023. Specifically, it is around the 2020 to 2021 Honda Civic, 2020 and 2023 Ridgeline, which is their truck, 2021 2003 Passport, which does not help you get out of the country. Unless you drive it, that would be a good commercial. Do it, Honda. That would be highly entertaining. Also, the 2021 to 2022 Pilot and the 2020 Acura MDX, with a specific total coming at 124,077 vehicles. Now, the issue lies in a fastener that connects the brake booster to the brake master cylinder. This could cause the brake master cylinder to separate from the booster assembly, thereby possibly causing the loss of brake function and risk of crash, unquote. So, not good news for Honda. Thankfully, most Hondas will always start and drive. Whether you stop is up to you. That was a joke. It was attempted a joke. But time shall tell to see if this really hurts their brand. I really want to look for recalls. This is a major one. Obviously, it has to do with safety, and it looks like they've gotten ahead of the situation, so thank God no one's been hurt for this. But when it comes to reliability, I really look for the heart of you look at the engine, the transmission, most important things. Brakes. I mean, if you're driving right, if you're racing, what do you need brakes for? Go all out for the top speed. Everyone does that in their Honda. What is that? The Ridgeline, the truck. Everyone goes to the top speed record on those things. But time shall tell. Thankfully, no one was hurt, and hopefully everyone will get their vehicles taken care of safely and in a proper time. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Don't forget, we're trying to get up to 3,000 subscribers by the end of July. Greatly appreciate you taking the time to like, subscribe, and comment. All the feedback is greatly appreciated as we help make the channel better and better together. Also, don't forget to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.